Apple came to do two things: chew gum and kick some financial butt. It looks like they're fresh out of chewing gum. The story has two parts. Chapter one is the good stuff, let's say. So we can take a look at that. Basically, they had a profit of $18.4 billion on $75.9 billion revenue. That's just for Q4 of
That's
2015.
just pocket change for Apple.
No big deal. That's up from last year's record setting. So they set this record last year, $18 billion of profit for the same Q4 of 2014. So, still beating their own records, their own crazy records. Of course, in the Q4, the iPad Pro was released, so that's kind of a part of that. That's a piece of the puzzle. Apple sold the 6S, 6S Plus in China. That's a huge market, that's kind of shooting it through the roof. Just in general, iPhone sales are a huge driver, and they continue to be a huge driver. That's kind of what we're seeing right now.
I mean, they are the driver. Let's not mince words here. They could get rid of every other product they own. And aside from the fact that they like having the multiple screen approach because it drives sales of the iPhone,
right?
That's where they make their money, iPhone and the market. So the question for a lot of people is, even though these earnings are to die for any other company on the face of the planet, any company would love to have these earnings that for some investors are disappointing, they are still an incredible result, especially in a year where the economy has really slowed down.
Yeah.
Which is strange because leading up to this release, every financial guru out there was saying, well, people are selling in expecting a bad result or expecting not a great result. And even though they did set another record, there's still those who are saying, yeah, it's not what I wanted. I wanted more.
Yeah. Were you expecting more, or were you just like, billions, that's enough for me?
I mean, you know how I feel about Apple.
How do you feel about Apple?
I gave up on Apple I stay with my MacBook right in front of me. Yeah. I gave up on them a couple of years ago as a mobile company.
Okay.
So,
you kind of went all in
I think that the better that they do, it's going to set the bar higher for other companies.
Sure.
So that I'm looking forward to. Mm-hmm. Just like if Apple's going to be making this much money, everybody else is going to try their own little whatever they
try
can
and get
to
a
fling,
piece of that
whatever
pie.
they can
even
to
though
fling
Apple
at the wall,
has a
it'll
ginormous
stick.
piece of that pie.
Yeah.
Overall, Apple has more than 1 billion active devices worldwide. 1 billion active devices. That's crazy. Another piece to this, of course, is that the Apple Watch and Apple TV are in the other products category. So we don't really know how they're doing specifically, and also, like their desktops and that sort of stuff. But the category is up 62% year over year, so that's good. That's up 43% from last quarter. Cook said in the earnings call that this is the best quarter ever for Apple TV, so that's doing strongly. He also said that Apple set a new quarterly record for Apple Watch sales, especially during December, so a lot of Christmas shopping, obviously.
And those are all true, absolutely true. And again, any other company would be envious, but this is Apple. And people will read between the lines. And between the lines it's still in the other category. It's not successful enough
to be its own category.
Because they don't want people peeking at those numbers, which tells me that, they're actually good products. The new Apple TV is fantastic. The Apple Watch, I don't wear any watches whatsoever, but I see a lot of people who are finally finding decent use cases for it. But it's not the new product category. People have been waiting for what's next because the iPhone market has really sort of matured, and they want to see what Apple's going to draw their profit from next, especially if iPhones are going to continue to be flat. And so people are like, well, okay, obviously it's not the watch. Obviously it's not the TV. What else you got?
Yeah, and I mean, that's you're leading right into chapter 2 of this 2-chapter story, the not really good stuff, but not necessarily bad stuff yet category. Apple forecasts a slowdown in sales, expecting revenue for Q1 2016 to be $50 to $53 billion. That's down from $55.5 billion. And this would be the first drop for Apple since 2003. And basically, a huge part of this is the fact that Apple, obviously, like we've been saying, all in on phones. That's their most important kind of category. But phone saturation. I mean, saturation is the problem, right? Everybody has a smartphone. Things are slowing down. And when your business is all invested in that as much as Apple is, I mean, it has other things going on. But like you said, none of them are nearly as strong as the iPhone. How do you fill that hole? How do you fill that gap going forward? What do you guys think?
I think that's a question that other people are trying to answer as well. I know that Android's going to face a similar problem.
Oh, they
this
already
year.
are. LG's earnings were down as well. You know,
much
that's just one
saturation
example.
of smartphones, and plus, if Apple's already hit it in China, like all the people who are adopting the iPhone have jumped on. There's still so many other players in China, and that's the market everybody's getting to. That in India. So,
what about VR? Could VR be the next big thing for
that's
Apple?
right.
I mean,
I forgot about
they're
VR.
making their moves.
I think they're banking on their car, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, we know what's going on with that.
As the next big thing.
There has to be something big.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I dragged down part one. Part one was the good news, and I made it a little downer. I want to drag up part
All right,
two.
cool. I like
which
this.
is this.
Little nuance.
Even though we're saying that, this is scary because we're seeing revenue drop even as profit is increasing, which tells us that it's becoming more difficult for Apple to earn a dollar. It's taking them more money to earn every dollar that they take in. That being said, they are still by far the most profitable in this space. They have it's like 90% of the profit made in the smartphone market comes from Apple. So yeah, there are many billions of more Android devices in the world, but they make a whole lot less money. Their margins are razor thin, whereas Apple can still stretch that dollar. So even though there's a slowdown, and even though their iPhone sales are flat and they might actually be negative in the next year over year, they're still going to make at least 70% of all the money in the smartphone market in the world, and that's a ridiculous amount of money. So if I were a fanboy, if I were an Apple fanboy, that's what I would point to. I would say, yeah, okay, in 10 years, maybe we'll be at parity. But if I'm an investor, I'm saying maybe this is not where I put my money. And that's, again, why Wall Street is a little jittery.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah, I feel like every quarter, we're so used to hearing just these massive, like insane numbers attached to Apple. And then we're also so used to hearing immediately after everybody saying, yeah, and it's horrible. They should have done better.
That's the news
Really?
cycle. Yeah, no, that every single quarter,
It's like billions and billions and billions, yet it's never good enough.
You can set your watch to it.
It's
that's
pretty
how
much
bad
going to
it is.
happen.